We just received a large shipment from China, a lot of cool new tools. All these items will be posted on our website in the next few days. We're gonna start with new blades that we got in. We have 6 different types of blades here. I went over 2 of them in previous videos. We have this one here. This is a big blade. It's a big round blade. A lot of times I feel the need for having a big blade. And if you look under the microscope here, you can see how the blade looks like. And let's go over blade number 2 quickly. This is a round blade also, but it's slightly smaller blade, and it looks something like this. And we have blade number 3, which is this one here. Round, and then it's pointy on the top, so it's like a 2-in-1 blade. And we have this one here, which is a pointy blade. And 2 more blades. I'm trying to quickly go over the new items that we got in. This one here, I went over it in a previous video. I use this a lot when cutting off 0.1 millimeter jumper wires, and you see me use it a lot. And I use this one a lot also. This one here, it's curved, but the blade is from the inside and not from the outside. This is an awesome blade, and I use it on daily basis. Okay, you see how the blade is from the inside? So 6 different types of blades. And the next new item that we got in, alcohol dispensers. We have this on every bench in our shop. And we have a very, very thin prying tool. This is what we use to pry screens off iPads, phones, whatever the case may be. Next item on the list is the Mechanic iMax. I use this to remove glue from around the IC, or I use it to scrape off underfill or glue. It comes with 20 different blades that you can use for BGA work, to go under a BGA chip, to pull a BGA chip. Let me show you how the blade looks like. This is a hard blade. I use it when I want to, if I have an example board here. I have a Nintendo Switch board, which is not a good example, but I just want to show you what I do with this. Let's say I want to scrape off a glue from around the IC. I use this for that purpose. And let's say I removed an IC and there's underfill or some type of glue that I want to remove. I use this tool to scrape off that glue. The next item is something that I fell in love with the first time I laid eyes on it. It's a PCB holder. 6 by 8 inches. And it was actually difficult getting this one from China because of how heavy this thing weighs. 780 grams. 780 grams. We can use it not only for one motherboard, but we can use it for to secure 2 boards. We have 2 boards here, 2 PS4 Blu-ray boards, and we got these in today. Customer wants us to swap a chip from this board onto that board. So let's use this board holder to secure that board in place. I push on the blue tab and then on the spring, and now it's secured. Same thing here. Push on the blue tab and then on the spring, secured. Okay. I mean, look at this. I'm holding the board holder by the board itself. Very, very solid. And this is a heavy board holder. Amazing tool. Really amazing tool. It has the 4 anti-skid rubbers on the bottom. And when you have this on your bench, it's not going anywhere. The board is solid. It's not going anywhere. Like I said, it was very difficult to get this item in from China because of how heavy this item is. It only made sense for us to get it when we ordered a large quantity. We ended up saving on the shipping, but still, shipping is not cheap for this item. Next item on the list is the Mechanic iBoot power cable for Android. One end plugs into the power supply, and the other end has 8 different connectors that work with majority of Android phones in the market. A lot of times customers come in where they bring in an old phone and all they are interested in is data recovery. And majority of the times the problem is either a charging port or a battery problem. By having this cable, I can just plug one of the connectors onto the phone, power the phone on, do data recovery, and the job is done. And next item on the list is phone holder. A lot of times I'm working on a phone, or Big Boss is working on a phone. We open it, we disassemble it, we take the screws out, and then we later realize that we need to order a part. So now I have to reassemble everything so we do not lose the screws, and I have to wait for the part to come in. This box solves that problem. This box is made out of 2 levels. Level number 1, we can put the phone here, the motherboard here, whatever the case may be. And level number 2, we can put the screws here. Here we can have a battery, we can put maybe a speaker, the screws, different parts for the phone. And very handy. Like now, I'm working on a hard drive. I have the screws taken off. As you can see, we have a donor circuit board here from another drive. So I put everything in one box. Okay. I'll put a label on the box and the job is done. So you can never have enough of those. We use them on daily basis. Next on the list is the mechanic iBoot box for iPhones. This one is similar to the red meter that we use in the shop here. For those of you who do not know what the red meter is, it's a way to test iPhones. So Mechanic developed this tool which is similar to the red meter that we used here, but this is a new item in the market. Okay, it looks something like this. And the meter, I do not know if it's in this box or the other box. I have not used this tool yet, but I read a lot about it and we decided that we want to carry it in our store. So in here we have all the cables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 cables. Okay. And the other box has the meter here. Look at this. It looks just beautiful. I mean, it's a piece of art. The finish. And there's only one button. And that button is probably to turn the phone on. Okay. We have 6 different USB plugs here to plug all 6 cables. And this looks like it can be powered on using a power supply. It can be powered on using an adapter. How much is it? Probably 5-volt adapter. $28 volts. Oh yeah, 5 volts. 5 volts up to 28 volts. So we can put an adapter from 5 volts to 28 volts. And we can also power this on from a micro USB cable. Judging by the quality of this tool, I have not seen anything like it. Look at the finish on this. I see this tool as something that will last you forever. And we can plug in whichever cable goes in, whichever iPhone you are working on. I want to quickly go over the connectors and what iPhones they support. Okay, this is for iPhone 7. Let me switch over to the microscope. This one is for iPhone 7. This one is for iPhone 8, 8 Plus. This one is for iPhone X, XS, XS Max. This one here is for 6 Plus, XR, 6S, and 6S Plus. And we have here the 6. And we will also be carrying an additional product which works with this meter. And this one is for iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max. The device also comes with this cable. This is a power supply cable. And I can use my power bank to actually power this device on. I do not have to be attached to my power supply. I can be portable. Let's try this quick. Plug this to the power bank here. It still has this plastic wrap on the screen, but the meter is on. I have not seen anything this high quality. Mechanic is really doing an awesome job with the tools that they are making. Yellow and blue, you cannot lose this cable. I do not want to end the video without doing any repairs, so let's go ahead and work on those boards. These were brought in so we can transfer the chip from here onto here. This is a PlayStation 4 Blu-ray board. As you know, when you replace the Blu-ray drive on your PlayStation 4, the drive itself will not work unless we transfer the old chip onto the new board. So let's go ahead and do that now. I have the boards labeled F from 2. So we're gonna take the chip from this board and put it on that board. I'm gonna start by removing the chip of the new board, and we're gonna be using the new PCB holder. Push on the blue tab and then on the spring, secured. Okay, this is heavy. This is 780 grams. Pretty heavy. I do have a camera up here pointing down to the bench, but I do not have it connected to the mixer. I have a 4-input mixer. One for the camera, the side camera, one for the microscope, one for the thermal cam, and I have one for the other bench that we have there. Maybe I'm gonna disconnect the other camera and use this one here instead. I mean, I really need an 8-channel mixer and not 4. I always find myself needing to have more cameras, but right now we only have 4, and this is not a cheap mixer. It's $1,000. If I want to go for 8 channels, it's about $2,600. The 8-channel mixer is twice as big, so I do not have room for it on the bench here, but I'll figure it out. I have the Barlow lens on so we can see the whole chip. If I did not have that Barlow lens, then we would be zoomed in a lot and we would only see a portion of the chip. Right now I have the whole chip in view. Let's start with 470 degrees Celsius. We're gonna start heating this up. Now we can do this 2 ways. Number 1, we can apply low melt solder and desolder that chip. And number 2, we can do it like this. If we use low melt solder, we have to clean afterwards and it's gonna get a bit messy. Okay, the chip is almost out. We just have to be careful how we pull this out so we do not knock off any components. And the chip is in a mint condition. Look at this. All the pins are in mint condition. We did not damage any pins. We did not bend any pins. We do not have to clean from having to use low melt solder, and this is the cleanest way of doing it. Now all we have to do is clean the pads here. We're gonna remove the chip from the old board and we're gonna put it on the new board here. Fume extractor. This wick is amazing. Look at the way it absorbs solder. The wick is made out of a lot of braids. We're only using the very tip and we already wicked off all the pins, all the pads. Two ways to solder the new chip. We can either pre-apply solder onto the pads and we can reflow that chip down in place, or we can put the chip as is like this and then we can start soldering the pins. We always do it the reflow way, so maybe this time we'll try the other way where we solder the pins like we do with an HDMI port. We are dealing with a lot of pins and those pins are very close to each other, but that's not a problem. Now we're gonna remove this board, and the way to do so is press on the tab and pull down. So easy, so easy. This is amazing. We're gonna put the second board in, and let me demonstrate one more time. Okay, so the board goes here. Press on the blue tab, and then we're gonna press on the spring. It locks. Same thing here. Press on the blue tab, and then press on the spring, and it's done. Okay. Every time I work with this holder, I feel happy. It's a new tool, new gadget, and I love new gadgets. Okay, so this one is the old board. We need to take the chip of this board and put it on the other board that we took the new chip from. And I have the chip labeled with a marker F so we do not confuse it. So all we have to do is keep in mind where the small circle is and where the big one is. Small on top and the big one on the bottom. Starting to pull up, and just like that. Okay, and the reason I'm holding this like this, in case other components on the board are still soft, we do not want to knock them off, even though we do not care about this board anymore. But now it's safe to let the chip go. It's not going to solder itself back on the board. And let's release this board from the board holder. And let's put the other board. Let's align the board onto the tabs here. Okay, so I have it locked from here and from here. And let's do it. The pins are intact. All the pins are aligned properly. No bending in the pins, no damage to the pins, no bridges onto the pins, and that's the way it should be like. Apply just a little bit of flux here. And I'm gonna try to hold the chip down by soldering a few pins. Let's apply solder on the other end, and we'll make everything look nice and pretty at the end. But for now, all I'm concerned about is the alignment of this chip. So once it's secured from left and right, then we should be all good. Okay, so the chip is secured in place, and that's what I want. And now we can use a bigger tip and more flux. Okay, that's enough solder. Now we can spread the solder. Make sure all the pins are soaked with solder. Let me get rid of the barlow lens so we can see the pins more closely. We do not need to be that far out. Okay, so now we can see everything nice and close. Just like that. Let's go over those pins one more time. Quick cleanup. Beautiful. And look at just how beautiful this looks. 1, 2, 4, 5. Solid, solid, super solid. All those pins are super solid. Awesome job doing one side of the chip. We still have 3 more sides to go, but the process is the same. We're gonna spread solder over to all the pins. So start here and keep going, keep going, keep going. And that's where having good flux will set apart a beginner from a pro. Without good flux, it's very difficult to get this job done. Right now, all I'm doing is soaking those pins with solder. Let's use our wick to remove excess solder and we'll continue. And this stuff can be easily cleaned, not a problem. Let's grab a new swab. And somebody was asking how many swabs we use daily. A lot. I never counted, but we use a lot. I mean, every job I do will take about maybe 5 to 10 swabs. But swabs are cheap, so it's not a big deal. Solid. Very solid. Super solid. Very nice. So let's do side number 3, and this time I'm gonna use a different tip just to experiment with tips. We used the slightly bigger one. Now we're gonna use the bent one, the bent chisel one that I always like to use, this one here. We have some components on the side, and the bent one is gonna help me get in between the component and the chip to solder the pins. So let's apply flux. We're gonna soak those pins with solder. And look at how the solder blob is getting smaller and smaller because the pins are getting soaked with solder. And just like that. But we have to be careful. We have to be careful. You see how that pin is slightly bent? This one here. Let's clean up and test. I mean, what makes this job a little bit tedious are the number of pins on that chip and how close those pins are to each other. What I love about this brush is it's not too hard, but it's also not too soft. It cleans really well. And back like factory. Let's test, make sure everything's good. No bridges. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We only have one more side to go, which is this one here. and that's where we initially applied solder to secure this chip down in place. Let's quickly go over this, finish up the job, and call the customer to come and pick up. Let's soak those pins with solder. And we do not worry about the bridges now, we'll worry about them later. Okay, you see? I'm just pressing down on every pin. One more time, quick. And this should be done. Beautiful. Clean up and test. First I clean with the swab and then with the brush. And the reason is, first we get rid of all that gooey flux. And I forgot to add alcohol onto the swab. Okay. Now let's clean with the brush. Let's switch over to the overhead light. Pin number 1, 2, 3. Awesome, awesome, amazing job. And like I said, that's one way of doing it. The other way would be to pre-apply solder onto the pads and reflow that chip down. I wanted to try something different. And there's one other way, which is apply solder paste. And I do not recommend that method. I tried that before on an FEC connector, and we ended up doing a lot more work than we have to, because solder paste sometimes will make its way through to other components on the board, bridges, and all that stuff. Okay, so the job is done. Release. And the chip is right here. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll do something else in the next video.